Welcome to the Old Gab Box Podcast, the first of 2024. Excited about where we've been. 2023 was a great year. In fact, we want to thank all the people who dialed into our audio podcast, the Old Gab Box. And we'll continue the audio version wherever you are, driving around, in the office, etc. And we'll continue the pigskin prognosticator of prodigious proportions. A lot of people enjoy that. And of course, all our great guests. And we'll be continuing that in 2024, but this is the new video version on YouTube, and we're excited about that as we unveil kind of a new look. Also, we're going to be talking about, obviously, wagering. It will be a big part of it. I'll be out on the golf course doing live play-by-play inside the ropes. Great job I have for PGA Tour Live, PGA Tour Radio. I'll be out at the American Express in Palm Springs here in 3 weeks. Of course, the golf season starts this week in Maui, and we'll be picking that here in just a minute, breaking that down. We'll also be talking about a lot of travel, where you should go, what you should eat. We love food. Fitness will be a big part of the Old Gab Box podcast, because without fitness, we got nothing, guys and ladies. We need to take care of ourselves. We'll be talking about the books we're reading, but again, special emphasis on wagering. And yes, the pigskin prognosticator of prodigious proportions. We had a good season. You know, it was a volatile season, a difficult season in so many ways to pick winners against the spread in college football, simply because of all that transpires now. We're never sure who's going to be playing. And with the transfer portal, especially early in the year, there was a lot of volatility on these rosters. A lot of teams you didn't expect would be good. Turned out they were pretty good early, and then things kind of leveled off. The cream definitely rise to the top, but still it was a difficult season in a lot of ways to pick point spreads. But all in all, we did very well. The bowl season was fun. We laid off a lot of games simply because we didn't know who was going to play in some of these bowl games, and some of the teams were virtual unknowns as far as some of these teams got in with 5-7 records. So it was kind of hard to wager on these teams, but we had a lot of fun. We picked some winners there. Obviously, the easiest of the picks was Georgia over Florida State. That was a dominant Georgia victory. More on that in just a minute. Tennessee over Iowa, we thought again was very easy. Iowa's offense continued to do what they've done all year, and that was struggle. Tennessee with an easy cover there. You know, South Alabama played in a bowl game, 2 or 3 weeks ago on their home field down in Mobile. South Alabama, the Sun Belt member there, and they dominated, and a big fight broke out, but they won like 59-10 over Eastern Michigan. That was an easy win. Two of the best games, Kentucky-Clemson, that was a push. We had Clemson in that one, but that was right up there. Aside from the semifinal games, the Kentucky-Clemson game in the Gator Bowl was an incredible football game, and LSU-Wisconsin was a lot of fun. We took Wisconsin in that game. Again, Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner, did not play, and we thought that would keep things relatively close. And obviously, the LSU defense, again, gave a big yardage, ended up winning, and that was a winner for us as well. In the semifinals, we had Washington over Texas. We took Washington in the points, and obviously they won the game. And we had Alabama over Michigan in that crazy, wild, entertaining game in the Rose Bowl that goes to overtime. That was not a winner, but all in all, we did really well in the bowl games and finished strong. And now we'll get set for what should be a fun and fascinating national championship game where you have two undefeateds. And with all the craziness that's gone on this year in college football, we're going to wind up with just one undefeated team. And I think that's appropriate. By the way, the Alabama-Michigan game, if you hadn't heard, 27.2 million people watched that game. Top 5 all time as far as viewership. And then it's in this age of so many choices out there, and obviously the sports channels and the channels in general are so diluted. When you have 27.2 million people watching, that is phenomenal. Not that many people watched the later game, Texas-Washington. The ratings were good, but didn't compare to that. And obviously the late finish, 1 o'clock Eastern time, affected the Texas-Washington game. But all in all, I mean, you have two brands, Alabama and Michigan, going head-to-head in the Rose Bowl. You know, there was all that talk about the Final Four and FSU getting left out. The TV networks obviously had a say-so when all is said and done. and you can't complain. Game was great. The viewership was phenomenal, and it's interesting, right? I still think the two best teams in college football, I saw them in Atlanta, that Southeastern Conference Championship, when Georgia and Alabama, I mean, it was a game. We're talking about great individual players playing as hard as they possibly could. Big guys, big athletic guys, I mean, giving it all they had. And in the end, Alabama wins by 3. It wasn't the same Alabama team that played Michigan. They weren't as sharp. You had the big layover and layoff. But nevertheless, they had Michigan right where they wanted them, up by 7 with 4.5 to go. And Michigan scores on that phenomenal drive there at the end of the fourth quarter, which included a 4th and 2 in their own territory, which would have ended the game. So give Michigan a lot of credit and give Alabama credit for a great season. They beat Auburn on 4th and 31. They beat Georgia, the number 1 team in the country, to win another Southeastern Conference championship. And now a lot of these young guys, including Jalen Milroe, will be back next year for the Crimson Tide. Oh, by the way, Michigan, a 4.5-point favorite over Washington in the national championship game. A lot of tickets available for that. All the Texas people aren't going. All the Alabama people are not going. It'll be a huge Michigan crowd there for that game. Washington brings some people, but not anywhere close to what Michigan will bring. But we'll be watching, and the best player on the field is my most valuable player in college football, Michael Penix Jr., the sensational southpaw with that great story where he had those 4 years of injuries at Indiana, ending each season, does the transfer to Washington, and was incredible. The best player on the field in that Sugar Bowl game, best player in the field in the game against Oregon, the Pac-12 championship. His passing ability is unmatched. With all due respect to Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner, who put up those unbelievable numbers. Nobody's ever put up numbers like that. I still think Michael Penix Jr. deserved to be the Heisman Trophy winner. In my mind, he's the best player in the football field, and he is the reason I'm taking Washington in the 4.5 in that national championship game on Monday. Listen, he's won all the games. And because of him, Washington is on the verge of winning another national championship. Hasn't happened in 34 years at Washington. The great Don James had Washington as the national champions, and I think they will complete the task. Another reason being, Michigan just banged heads with Alabama, and Michigan is really good. But whenever you play a team the physical stature of Alabama, I mean, you are giving it all you got, and I think that takes a little spice out of what Michigan brings to the table, and they'll have just a short week to get ready against Washington. And again, Michael Penix Jr., what a phenomenal talent he is. And I think he brings Washington another national championship, and that would be very disappointing for Michigan after all they've been through and the season that they've had. But I think in the end, it's Washington winners of the national championship. Meantime, a couple of thumbs down before we get to golf, and I wanted to get to that because I know a lot of people want to get with the first golf tournament of the year, but I just saw a video. Florida State posted about 8.5 minutes of the Orange Bowl week from a Florida State perspective. A lot of video, a lot of cool stuff from the players having fun on the beach, etc. And a lot of Mike Norvell, the head coach, who listen, from the time that was announced on that Sunday that Florida State was not going to the playoffs, I mean, he was negative Nelly. I mean, I never saw the guy smile ever in any interview from that moment up to the Orange Bowl game. And listen, after getting beat 63-3, who would smile? But I believe a more positive approach would have been appropriate for Norvell and Florida State, who still had the opportunity to beat Georgia, the 2-time defending national champions, go 14-0 for the first time in FSU history. Instead, you use the fact that you got left out as an excuse, and you have all these bailouts of players. Of course, your quarterback is hurt. Okay. The backup quarterback was healthy after clearing concussion protocol, but then looks at the opt-outs and decides not to play himself, enters the transfer portal. Florida State missing their top 2 receivers, top 2 running backs, best defensive lineman, best linebacker, 2 outstanding corners, all enter the either the transfer portal or the opt-out round. And I just can't help but think that Norvell and the powers that be of Florida State could have done a better job in getting some of these young men to play against Georgia. And Georgia let it all hang out. I mean, Kirby Smart said the right thing after the game, but Georgia was out to make a statement, and they did. Again, there really is no excuse for Mike Norvell the way he reacted. I think when all is said and done is he looks back. You never want to look back, but I think a more positive approach, yes, disappointed on the day it happened, but let's get back to work. Let's get back to recruiting. Let's get back to preparations for this great opportunity against Georgia. Didn't see it at Florida State. And also thumbs down to Auburn's Hugh Freeze. Now here's a team, Auburn. They played in the Music City Bowl against Maryland. Hugh Freeze's first year on the Plains. They end their year losing New Mexico State, losing to Alabama on that crazy 4th and 31 play, and then getting just clocked by Maryland in the Music City Bowl. This was a stadium full of Auburn fans. They all came up, had a great time in Nashville. Many stayed 2 days, 3 days, wanted to watch their team play, and Auburn simply didn't show up. At the end of the third quarter, Hugh Freeze doing an interview with a sideline reporter for ESPN as if the game's over, bemoaning the fact that they were letting their school down, letting the crowd down as he pointed to the stands. And then after the game, admits that he was busy recruiting, was not involved in the offensive game plan, and the offensive coaches really let him down. They just didn't have a good plan for what they were going to face against Maryland. And I've never, ever heard a coach throw the coaching staff under the bus like Hugh Freeze. I'm astonished. I've been at this a long time. I've interviewed Hugh Freeze a bunch of times. I've interviewed Mike Norvell a bunch of times when he was at Memphis. I've done their games, and I just it astonishes me, this modern coaching tree. These gentlemen. I mean, you got to protect your turf. I mean, you try to settle the crowd base down. But in the end, I don't know. I thumbs down to Mike Norvell and his prep for the Orange Bowl, and Hugh Freeze for his prep against in the Music City Bowl as Auburn got shellacked by Maryland. All right, let's swing into the action in Maui. It is a great trip. The PGA Tour season starts Thursday through Sunday. The Plantation course there in Maui. The weather's going to be great. The winds will be down. The sun will be out. All the proceeds for this event will go to help restoration for those terrible fires that happened literally just down the street from the Plantation course. This is the start of a new season. No longer is the carryover season. Before, the fall would be the setup for the restart of the fall season. No longer the case. And it's no longer the Century Tournament of Champions. It's just called the Century because you not only have the winners of the last calendar year on the PGA Tour, but anybody else who finished in the top 50 and made it to the FedEx Cup playoffs are also there. So you have 59 players. Rory McIlroy's second straight year not playing. He's opted out of that. Jon Rahm, the defending champion, of course, he went to Live Golf, and so he will not be back to defend. This golf course is close to 7,600 yards. It is among the hilliest courses they play. It's a resort course, and normally you're buzzing around in golf carts if you're there as a tourist, but these guys will walk it. The caddies will tell you it is one of the toughest courses to carry a bag up and down those hills. 7,600 yards. Many of the holes play downhill, down breeze, so it won't play quite that long. For example, 18, that incredible par 5 that plays downhill, winds down to the bottom of the hill. It's like 680 something yards, but it plays much less than that. You can reach it in 2, depending on the wind. Big right to left swing. Average score over the last decade or so, 25 under par, so you got to go low. It is a par 73. There's an extra par 4, only 3 par 5s. Again, 59 players. The winner gets $3.6 million and also 700 FedEx Cup points. So if you can win here, if you can finish top 10, you're off to a sensational start on the PGA Tour. So a lot of big money events coming up on the PGA Tour. 36 tournaments. This is the start. And I thought it was interesting. Again, Scotty Scheffler, the favorite at 5-1. Why not? In my mind, as we talk about who we're going to pick in this tournament, Scotty Scheffler is a top 5 lock. No question about it. Now you're asking, why wouldn't you pick him to win? Because until he proves that his putting has gotten a little bit better, he won Tiger's event, the Hero World Challenge, did putt better. But until he proves on a consistent basis that putter is going to wake up and roll in just a few more putts, we're going with Scotty Scheffler as a top 5 lock. Ludwig Åberg, a lot of money on the young Swede who won that RSM Classic, the last event on the PGA Tour a year ago. He's now 9-1. And on this golf course, the way he hits that driver, and he'll be using it a lot, and the 3-wood, hits it a country mile as well, sets up perfectly for Åberg, playing in his first century, by the way. Victor Hovland, 10-1, hottest guy on the planet last year when he wins the FedEx Cup. Patrick Cantlay, 11-1. Cantlay didn't win a year ago, which is amazing. He's been in the news, admitted that he's gotten a lot of offers from LIV, has turned them down. Of course, there was Hatgate at the Ryder Cup, but Cantlay looking for a big year. Colin Morikawa, who was 6-up late in the final round a year ago when Rahm passed him, caught him and passed him. He's 12-1. Xander Schauffele is 14-1. Max Homa, 14-1. Look for Homa to have a huge year on the PGA Tour. And here's some other guys that I really like. Sung J M, the machine. Now, while a lot of golfers take time off during the holidays, Sung J M is not one of those. He's 30-1. Last 3 times he's played, last 3 years, 13th, 8th, and 5th. He's climbing the ladder. He's really good on Bermuda greens, Sung J M. Not a great putter, but he's much better statistically on the Bermuda grass. I think Sung J M is set up for a big week. Hideki Matsuyama at 55-1. Incredible. Hideki didn't win a year ago. Had a few injury problems. There'll be a Japanese contingent always there in Hawaii following their guy around. They'll be loud. They'll be vocal. They'll be loyal. And I think that helps a guy like Hideki. And Lucas Glover, 100-1. The guy who won twice at the end of last season, figured things out with a broomstick putter, got left off the Ryder Cup team, should have been on the Ryder Cup team probably, but Lucas Glover looking for a continuation of what happened at the end of last season when he was the hottest player. He won that tournament in Memphis. He goes back-to-back weeks winning, right? I think Lucas Glover is my pick to win. My pick to click this week at the Century, 100-1. Lucas Glover. I mean, that is incredible, folks. Look for Lucas Glover to cash in. I look for Sung J M at 30-1 but to be right there as well. I think he's a top 5 finish. I like Hideki at 55-1, top 5 finish. And Scotty Scheffler at 5-1 right now. A top 5 lock, Scotty Scheffler. And watch the odds change now. Scotty Scheffler, notorious for getting off to a slow start on the PGA Tour. And watch those odds change as the week goes on. And Scheffler may be the guy come Sunday. But again, listen, 59 guys. There's a lot of guys who haven't been playing a lot in the holidays. Now, there's a lot of guys who are motivated with what's at stake, 700 FedEx Cup points. A lot of money on the table. A lot of guys have been practicing that ordinarily would not have been practicing. But again, a big golf course, a second shot golf course. Everybody's going to be hitting driver and 3-wood off the tee. It's a matter on these massively big greens at the Plantation course, who's going to give themselves birdie opportunities and who's going to be rolling the rock there on those Bermuda greens. And we'll give you the reasons why. Again, Lucas Glover, 100-1 to win the Century. Anyway, thanks for watching our first episode of 2024. Much more to come. A lot of great guests. We wanted to tee off with just a taste of what's in store, which should be a lot of fun. And again, just check out the logo here, the Old Gab Box Podcast. Great history, by the way. We'll get more into that as weeks go on. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.